Thank you for joining us. My name is Sydney Rebecca, and with me today and always will be Rebecca Snow, and together we are the Becks.
Yes, we are.
This podcast will be exploring multimedia of all things scary. Movies, books, old records, songs.
Anything.
Serials, comic books, places. Yeah. Local legends, all of the above. But today we're going to be talking about Krampus, the Yule Lord.
Which is terrifying.
He is referred to as a Christmas entity, but that's actually a misnomer because he and his legend has been around since before Christianity. Now that may ruffle feathers, but the point of fact is Jesus was born on a day and he made Christianity be a thing. We're not going to get into that. I'm just saying that before Jesus was born, Christianity didn't exist because that doesn't make sense. And so Krampus existed before that.
And Krampus has been terrifying before and after that.
All right, so do you want to talk about the movie?
Yeah. So I watched it a couple times this weekend. I didn't watch the whole thing both times, but I did finish it. And terrifying.
Well, I guess I should ask, what does Krampus do in the movie?
In the movie, it's all about one family pretty much. Well, the whole neighborhood, I guess, but it's because of one family. They come and get the children, and the one little boy is in the house. Everybody's sleeping. They've already lost the older girl because she went out to her boyfriend's house because nobody was answering their phones, and she disappears because Krampus chased her down and apparently stole her. But the little boy woke up to a gingerbread cookie man hanging down the chimney, and he was interested in the gingerbread cookie man, and he took a big old bite out of his head.
Wait, the kid took a bite of the gingerbread?
Took a bite out of the gingerbread things because it comes down the chimney. And it's like, hello, and it's like dancing on this hook.
So it's friendly?
No, it's trying to get their attention.
Okay, so it's acting
trying to
like
wake someone up because it's jingling the chain it's on. And at the end of the chain is a giant hook, like a meat hook. And it's like, and does this really weird little dance. And so the one little boy wakes up. And he goes over and he takes a bite out of its head. And it looks at him and screams. And then he screams. And then all of a sudden it runs around him and wraps him up in a chain. And up the chimney he goes.
So I guess it probably didn't plan on a psycho child taking a bite out of an apparently sentient gingerbread person?
I would think not. But it worked out well for the gingerbread person because it wrapped the boy up in chains and away he went.
So why is Krampus targeting this family or this neighborhood?
There's the main family in the house. It's a mom, dad, daughter, son. The movie opens up to it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
Oh, and it's the Black Friday thing.
And it's the Black Friday thing.
So
people running each other over, hitting each other, punching each other. And it shows the family. They went to have their picture taken with Santa, which turns out to be a horrible mess. And they show the picture, and Santa's checking out the young girl. You can see him checking out the young girl. Yeah, and they're all just miserable being there. But the little boy was upset because his family isn't what it used to be. Everybody's angry, going different ways, life. So he had written a letter to Santa. He got very angry Christmas Eve night because his cousins showed up and they started making fun of him, and they found his letter to Santa and read it out loud in front of everybody and embarrassed him. So he got really upset and tore his letter up and basically said, Santa isn't real, I don't want anything to do with Santa, and threw the letter out the window, and in enters Krampus.
Okay, so does he target people who are not feeling the Christmas spirit?
They lose the magic of Christmas. They don't feel the spirit. They give it away. They turn their back on it. At one point in the movie, after Krampus has, pretty much killed everybody in the neighborhood, at least that's the way it looks at the time.
It appears that he kills everyone?
It appears that, because they go out and they go to the boyfriend's house trying to find the daughter, and it's abandoned, and there's a gingerbread man on the fridge with a meat cleaver through it, and everything's frozen. It's a frozen tundra at this point.
So there's a level of absurdity to the movie.
Oh, there is, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the dad of the family of the cousins that come to celebrate with them. So I guess it would be the brother-in-law. He's like, whoever did this is absolutely insane and crazy because of the gingerbread man, with the knife through him on the fridge.
What kind of sick person would do that to a gingerbread man?
But, and then it's at this point where they get back and Krampus has actually attacked the brother-in-law. It bit his leg, apparently, and they get back to the house and they're trying to hide, and that's when the grandma, after the little boy was, sucked up the chimney with the chain, the grandma actually, she wasn't speaking English through the whole movie, and then she tells them that it's her fault because when she was a little girl, Christmas was very dark, they didn't have anything. She shows her standing in line. It's kind of like a cartoon area of the movie, she was standing in line for bread, and she went home, and she still believed in the magic of Christmas and Santa, and she had written him a letter. It shows her parents arguing and grabbing her little Santa doll that she had and tearing it, and she got really upset and threw it in the fire and wished that Santa would go away.
So she thinks that it's ultimately her fault.
Yes, because
not the little boy at the beginning.
She said that she would live to regret that. So the same thing happened.
So you said she wasn't speaking English. Was she Polish?
Yes.
German?
I think she was Polish. They never really said.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah, and then it just, escalates from there.
That's not escalated enough.
No.
So what does Krampus look like in the movie? Did they ever show him?
Well, there's a lot of different things they show, like the creepy gingerbread man that, has teeth and screams. And then there was this clown thing in the attic that was terrifying with, multiple rows of teeth.
Oh, yeah, I think I remember that. Mm-hmm. It's been a long time since I watched that.
But Krampus is dressed in, a robe and looks like an animal, and there's a bunch of them. And in the movie, too, there's the element of the creepy snowmen that just keep popping up in the yard, which...
Right, I remember that. So it's kind of like he just is essentially kind of takes all of the fun things about Christmas and kind of perverts them.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So Krampus, I have here a Christmas bestiary that I picked up at the Haunted Bookstore in Mobile. Shout out, not a sponsor. They could, though. That would be cool. The Christmas bestiary has a entry on Krampus because he's one of the most infamous Christmas/Yuletide entities that people think of, besides Santa. Obviously, Santa and Jesus Christ are the two, main figureheads of Christmas, which that was weird when I put it like that, but it's true.
Well, at least for us in the U.S.
True.
Other countries, they have their, own beliefs, obviously, because I didn't even know about Krampus until the movie came out years ago.
Yeah, I think that was same was for me. I don't know if I, had seen something maybe mentioned on the internet or what have you, but I think it was the movie that brought it to my attention as well. Yeah. Now, this is a common story in Austria and Germany. That's why I was asking if maybe the grandma was German. But according to the bestiary, he has horns, fangs, goat's hooves, black or brown fur, a pointed tongue, and he's usually armed with whip, chains, or birch twig, and he's apparently very dangerous. So Krampus night is on December 5th, which has already passed since we recorded this. But I think next year, I might leave offerings out to Krampus, because it's kind of fun. It's interesting to have a horror element beside the normal, just jolly, merry, visages of Santa Claus, and to a lesser degree, the sleeping Jesus.
I think that's what really threw me when I first heard about Krampus, because growing up in the U.S., you grow up with Santa, holly, jolly. Yes, if you're bad, you get coal.
But it's just coal, right?
It's just coal. There's no, dark side to Santa or Jesus or, any of that. I mean, I guess if you can go to hell, but not for Christmas. You know what I'm saying?
What did you get for Christmas? I got sent to hell.
Yeah. For me, it's Christmas has always been jolly and this and that. But I guess, though, if you really think about it, even we talk about it in the U.S., how holidays can be a very dark time for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And
not just emotionally or whatever, but we got to think back when they were originally, first dictating these legends and writing them down and passing them down to family. Especially in other entries in the bestiary, you talk about, making sure that your house is very well lit. Well, back before Christmas was Christmas Day, Yule fell on the darkest day of the year. the winter solstice. So, you know, in that aspect, people wanted to feel protected, and they lit candles and they left offerings out. And, you know, because it was a darker time, we didn't have an understanding of the things that happened, really. We just knew that the darkest time of the year came, you know, every year on the same night, and we wanted to try to live through it, essentially.
Yeah.
So, I recently read, on the same vein of Krampus, I read Krampus the Yule Lord by Brom. And Brom is infamous for his retelling of different fairy tales. But he is also, I think, in part, the reason why Krampus gained more popularity in pop culture. And I have some notes on the book here. It was a really good book. Like, I'm a really quick reader, so it took me about 2 days to get through it.
You are a really quick reader.
Okay. So, like we mentioned before, the legend of Krampus dates back centuries, originating as a German Christian tradition during the 12th century or thereabouts. Now, when I was researching this on Google, I just thought it was interesting that he is called the Christmas tradition, even though he predates Christ. He's a Yule tradition. He's called the Yule Lord. So in the book, Krampus is kind of like a nature spirit. And I noticed this when I read Slewfoot by Brom as well. Is a lot of these entities that he talks about, they kind of, he really leans into like the paganist aspects of it. So it's like, yeah, Krampus kind of looks like what the Christian church would say, like, oh, it's Satan or devil or, you know, whatever. But as we know, the Christian church likes to change things for themselves.
For sure.
You know, was Christ born in December? Probably not. Historically, it doesn't make sense based on, you know, the history that the Bible talks about.
Yeah.
But pagans really had a great time around Yule, so they had to, you know, make them God-fearing. So Krampus was actually one of the first traditions around what was Yule but became Christmas that the church kind of demonized, pardon the pun. But, you know, he was kind of a devil-type creature. And, you know, the legends say that he would, you know, beat bad children and drag them to hell. Like, the only person who should be capable of doing that is God. So, anyway.
What a way to keep your children in line.
Yeah, you know, a lot of it is, you know, it's superstition, it's safety.
Yeah.
And when you have an all-ruling, loving God who is all-powerful, you don't have as much of a need, I feel like, for superstition, because he'll take care of you, right? You pray to him, and he takes care of it. So there wasn't any room in what was becoming rapidly a Christian nations in Europe. So they kind of shucked him out. So in the book, like I said, Krampus is more of a nature spirit than, you know, an actual demon. He does have power, but it opens up as he is a prisoner of Santa's, which is totally bizarre. And I do want to touch on, like, I was talking to you earlier about how, like, absurd the Krampus movie kind of was.
Yeah.
There's, like, elements to that in the Krampus book that I read as well. There's some, like, points where you're like, okay, this is really kind of absurd. But Brom is really good at, like, wrapping it up in a present of just something that feels like, if you extend your disbelief a little bit, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So, the Santa sack, okay, where he gets all of his toys, in Brom's book, that's actually a relic from Loki, the Norse god. So, if you look up the Krampus legends, they talk a lot about how he drags children to hell if they've been particularly bad. Hell with one L, which is Loki's daughter, the Norse goddess of the underworld. So he drags him to the underworld, technically not hell. So the sack is Loki's originally, and he can pull anything he wants from it. Now, I didn't really research the sack as much, but I just thought it was interesting that of all, especially because he comes from Austria and Germany, of all the gods, I guess, that it's rooted in, it just surprised me that it was Norse.
Yeah.
So Krampus is the son of hell in Brom's book, and in most legends they talk about how he's the son of hell, or, you know, related to her in some way. So that makes Loki his grandfather, and Loki, of course, being the god of mischief and all the trouble that he gets up to in all of the Norse legends. Obviously, his line doesn't have a very good reputation.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like you would.
Yeah. So, Hel and Krampus kind of suffer because of Loki's actions. That's common in all of Norse legends, is how much trouble Loki
causes everywhere he goes.
Yeah, all the trouble he causes and all of the issues he causes for other people down the road. And in fact, Santa is not Saint Nicholas. He's actually Balder, son of Odin. And he kind of picks up the mantle of Saint Nicholas. It's not that Saint Nicholas never existed. It's just that he kind of takes it over, and he's immortal. And he can actually control like the Yule goats to take them for them to fly, and because Thor infamously had, I don't know what the Norse version of a chariot is, but he had flying goats that took him places.
Flying goats. That's almost a nightmare for me. Goats just creep me out anyways, but yeah.
So for a time, Krampus and Balder worked together. Krampus and Santa worked together. Santa would, give gifts to the good children, and Krampus would give coal or whip bad children, or if they were really bad, he would take them to the underworld. But Balder's is, like, not a great guy. Obviously, at the start of the book, Krampus is locked up. He's in prison, and he has been so for, 500-600 years. Many centuries, because Santa betrayed him, and that's why he, at the beginning of the book is, swearing revenge against Santa. And you learn through the course of the book that Santa, Balder, he stole the sack, which was rightfully Krampus's, as blood of Loki. And you need to have Loki's blood to make it work correctly. In the book, Santa or Balder, he can only pull toys from it, which is fine because he's Santa, right? That's useful still. But Krampus, when he has it, he can reach into any doorway and take anything he wants in any plane of existence. So, like, when Krampus is released from his prison and he's, trying to bring back the spirit of the Yule Lord and teach people about who Krampus is and what Yule is and all this stuff, he gives children coins for giving him offerings. And they're like, I forget what they're called, like drachma maybe? Which is a Greek coin, so I don't think, maybe that's not right. But he gets them from the underworld. And there's like an infinite amount because, they used to send off their dead with treasure. Yeah. So that they could gain access to the underworld. So he can literally reach into his sack and get coins from the underworld. But he warns his Belsnickels, which is, another Yule beast that are basically in the book servants to Krampus. He warns them that if they, fall through the sack, there's no way for them to get back out of the underworld again. It's very creepy.
That is super creepy. Pretty awesome that he can pull coins from the underworld or whatever he needs from anywhere. But yeah, I don't want to fall through the sack and be stuck in the underworld.
Well, there is that's kind of like, what do they call it, Chekhov's gun, when he mentions that. Later on in the book, someone does die horribly in the underworld, and they super deserve it. So, but, Krampus, like I said, he's more of a nature spirit. He obviously, he doesn't like, when he gets out of his prison, he gets incensed, in fact, when he sees, Santa Claus blow-ups and different ornaments on trees that are supposed to be Yule trees, Yeah, so, and especially when he has such a vendetta against Balder or Santa, he thinks that he's essentially a charlatan. He's given up the respect and memory of the old gods that have since perished. And so they have this very nasty rivalry. Like, they both try to kill each other through this book.
That's crazy.
It is. And like I said, it's a little absurd, but it's interesting.
I was going to say, it's kind of an interesting take. Krampus being what we know of him just from the movie, seeing this, where he really isn't the bad guy. He's just being made out to be the bad guy, rather.
Well, and I would definitely say he's morally gray. I wouldn't say he's like a good guy, because he does do terrible things to people still. The element of the movie Krampus is definitely inside the Krampus that Brom writes, just to a lesser degree. Because, we just see it through the lens of the movie. He's just kind of punishing specific people for being shitty on Christmas.
Yeah.
Whereas, it's more of it's a very, like, tonally different mission in the book. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I would definitely read it again. Brom also does music as well as illustrates all of his books too. So if we get a Facebook page started, we should definitely share some of his things on that.
It sounds like a great idea.
Do we have anything else to say about Krampus?
All I have to say is I believe in the magic of Christmas. I don't want a visit from Krampus ever.
No, they talk about, and I think we'll mention some of the other stories while we're recording in December of the other Christmas things, because they talk about the wild hunt and how Odin, was the head of the wild hunt on Christmas, and big man, bearded person, definitely could have kind of been diluted into the jolly fellow we see today, into Santa. So there's other just Norse elements to it that I find really interesting.
Well, with the bestiary book that you got, I found it interesting. I guess I didn't realize there were so many different aspects of, like, Krampus. Different countries, different areas, different regions, with so many different legends about, like, Yuletide things and Christmas things and scary, horrible things at Christmas. I didn't realize there were so many out there. I mean, I had no idea that there's that many legends about different things. So it is very interesting. Now that we're getting more into that I'm seeing that, because like I said, I didn't even know Krampus was a thing until the movie came out years ago. And then I'm like, how is Christmas terrifying? Well, yeah, Krampus is pretty scary.
He is.
But some of the other ones that we were discussing, that I'm sure we'll discuss throughout the month, are even as terrifying, if not more terrifying, than Krampus. So.
And just as dangerous.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting to me that's out there, where here we are just jolly fat man, and you'll get a lump of coal, and here we're going to steal your gifts, and we're going to disembowel you, and we're going to haul you to hell.
Yeah, so that's not what I want for Christmas.
No, me either. So like I said, I believe in Christmas magic.
But Santa might be a dick.
Reiterate that numerous times throughout this month.
Well, it's one of those things, this is why we're doing this podcast, is because scary things are fun.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And fun things can be scary.
Yeah.
So I just think that it's cool, but not surprising personally to me that there is these horror elements to surrounding the holiday season.
Yeah. Well, I've heard people say too, you think about Santa, he's just this fat, creepy man that comes into your house in the middle of the night, down your chimney or wherever. So that, if you really sat and thought about it.
Santa as a villain is interesting.
Yes.
If you want to see it, you should read Brom, Krampus, the Yule Lord, because he's a big dick. Like, he's the worst.
Yeah, I think I'll have to read that to see what that's all about, because that's pretty interesting to me as well.
Yeah, it is interesting. And it's like, in the book, obviously, a lot, like most of it is from Krampus's troop of people that he kind of collects that become his loyal servants. So from that lens, you're like, okay, Santa is a villain. It's weird, but it's interesting. It's different, right? And, further into the book you go, it's like, okay, Krampus is not necessarily a good guy, but he's not like Satan. He's not the devil. He just, he respects Mother Earth and the old gods. And, that's where he gets his power from. He literally has a relic from Loki.
Yeah.
So it's like, all of and they talk about it like Ragnarok has happened, because Earth exists and, we're in the future or whatever.
Yeah.
So most of the old gods are dead. It's really just Krampus and Santa left. Krampus from Loki's line and Balder from Odin's. Yeah. And there's Odin's ravens and, some of those giant Norse wolf beast things and stuff like that. But it's, there's no other entities. They do actually mention there's angels and God mentioned in the book too, which I did not see coming. But God's a girl in that book, by the way, which I liked. God is a woman. Perhaps. But yeah, I think that's all we have on Krampus.
I think so.
It's been great. Thanks for joining us.
Until next time, we're the Becks.
We're the Becks.